Hello, my friends. It is day 110, and we're reading Psalm 121, 123, 124, 125, 128, 129, and 130 in today's reading. But before we get into our recap for today, we want to thank you for taking a moment to check out this video. Hopefully, you're finding the channel encouraging, and hopefully, you're enjoying the yearly Bible reading program. If you have not yet subscribed, please make sure you check out the description box below, and there you will find a link that will take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, where you can join a number of readers throughout the entire country, reading the Bible every single day and sharing the things they're learning. And so we'd love for you to be a part of this community, and we know that you'll be blessed by the interaction as much as we are blessed by your participation. So today we are reading in the book of Psalm, and it's an interesting thing because yesterday we were able to read the end of 1 Samuel, which included the death of Saul, and now we're in the books of Psalm again. And so it's like every other day we're back and forth between the First Samuel or the books of Samuel, and then we go into the Psalm. The reason this is the case is because we're reading about the life of David, and if you understand David's life was so impactful in a variety of ways, but one of the ways that he contributed to the nation of Israel is through his poems and his psalms and his hymns and all of the things we find in the book of Psalm. So there's a bit of concentration in this book because some of these psalms are written during key events in David's life. Others are written at other times, which we find are seemingly relevant to the time that we're reading about in his life. So every now and then we'll get a passage out of the psalm that seemingly links to what we're reading in 1st and 2nd Samuel. And so today we're focusing on what is called the Psalms, or the Songs of Ascent, and they are often also called a gradual psalm. And there are two reasons for these psalms. One of the reasons is to sing or to express one's feeling as they are progressing up the steps to enter into the temple. The other one would be songs that were sung as they were preparing to return back to a land that they were exiled from, namely the Babylonian exile. So we understand that David actually wrote 4 of these psalms, and that would be 122, 124, 131, and 133. The others were written by other writers, and 127 was written by Solomon. Okay. So when we read these psalms today, what we're primarily focusing on are psalms that help us understand the value and the joy that is expressed when one enters into the temple. All right. And we understand that this is relevant to David's life because David is the one who has this sort of concentration and this love and this desire to build a house for God. He has a desire to be in the presence of God. He expresses this over and over again, even in the Psalms that we know are written to him from a personal standpoint. And so it's only right that we kind of consider some of the Psalms that would speak to that in today's writing. Okay. Now, when we look at Psalm 121, we see that this is a very popular psalm. You may not recognize it or realize it in the New Living Translation, but in the old King James Version, it would say, "I will lift up mine eyes into the hills, from which cometh my help," or "from whence cometh my help." But in the New Living Translation, it appropriately forms that first verse as a question. I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? It's like David is actually inquiring and pursuing and looking for help. And he's going to the mountain. He's saying, and maybe in respects, maybe it's there, maybe it's not. But what he ultimately concludes is that his help comes from the Lord. I can go anywhere, and maybe I won't find the help there that I need. But if I go to the Lord, that's where my help can be found. And then he goes into this great explanation of what it looks like to be helped by God and how God prevents certain things and helps him in things that he would allow. So Psalm 121, we might assume that it was written by David. Perhaps it wasn't, but we understand that this fits within the line of what he would say during his lifetime. Of course, he can rely or relate to that simply because of the way he's wandering from place to place, and he's always resorting to God for his help. Okay. Now, chapter 123, We see that this is another song that is talking about the help of the Lord. And here's something that I think is very important, at least for the timing that we're reading in. Whether David wrote these Psalms or not, what it is showing us is that there is a huge dependence on God's help. Like, the individuals writing these Psalms are not in any way trying to say, man, listen, I can handle things on my own. I can find what I need from some other place or even deep within myself. You know, the thing about the self-help movement is that it teaches us to find help in a place that we can never find help. We are taught to dig deep inside to find the help that can only come from God. And so each one of these Psalms seemingly have a theme around the help of God, the help that God gives. Okay. And in chapter 124, it talks about what would happen. I love these two verses. The first two verses, what if the Lord had not been on our side? And then it says in verse 2, what if the Lord had not been on our side? And as I'm reading through this, I'm just sitting there contemplating what it would be like if I did not have the Lord helping me. Right. And this is the kind of thing that the Psalms do. It ends in verse 8 by saying, our help is from the Lord who made heaven and earth. So you see again this recurring theme of God's help. There are three things that I think we should always remember. We get this from Moses, but I like to call them the three P's. God provides us, or rather, God promises us three things: protection, providence, and prosperity. That's the third thing. The three P's. It is providence, protection, and prosperity. And so when we think about our time here on earth, we never want to get lost in the idea that we can do anything of ourselves or from ourselves or even for ourselves. We don't have that ability. Whatever we do it because God is helping us. He is walking alongside us and sometimes walking ahead of us or behind us, on the side of us, to keep us along the way. Okay. So we see that in chapter 124 and 125, we see that there is an emphasis on trust. And then lastly, we read 128, 129, and then we read 130. And all of these songs of ascent seemingly demonstrate in one way or the other the providential help of God, or it relays to us how God is preserving his people in some way. It's joyful, and it really is. And we can understand why they would sing these songs as they walked up the steps of the temple and as they did the things that they did. Now, the Psalms we read today, namely the ones in our reading today, none of them have been quite known to be written by David. We don't know who wrote them, but they do sound like it, and it does feel like it was written by David because it definitely fits within the scope of what he's experiencing in the books that we're reading alongside the Psalms. So we'll keep reading. We can always take something away from it. Whoever wrote it, we understand that there's a divine message behind it. All right. So let's keep reading. Let's keep journeying through the Psalms. Tomorrow, we're going to be reading in 2 Samuel. We're going to start a new chapter or a new book. And hopefully you'll find some joy and enjoyment in that. But listen, let's keep reading. Let's keep studying. Let me know what you're thinking. Drop it in the comment box below. I love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching. Take care. God bless. And remember, live by the word.